Hello, these are your notes for today. Sorry I couldn't be there with you guys. We are going to be starting our new unit. And it's all about working with integers, which are negative numbers. You will not be able to use a calculator for this whole unit. So we are not going to get out calculators. We're not going to Google answers to use that as the calculator. We are not going to use our phones as a calculator or anything on the computer. Like, this is all going to be done in your head. This whole unit is about learning how to do those. I know your calculator knows how to do them. You need to learn how to. So today we're just going to focus on adding the integers. So there's basically two rules we're going to follow. The first one is adding if both signs are the same. This is going to be the easiest part. So all you do is ignore the signs, add the two numbers, and then, I should say then, not they. And then make sure your answer is positive or negative depending on the original signs of your problem. So over here you see examples, 4 plus 6 equals 10. You've been adding two positive numbers together since basically kindergarten. So that should be fairly simple. But adding two negatives, so negative 4 plus negative 6, ignore the fact that they're negatives, just add the two numbers, 4 plus 6 is 10, and since they were both negative, it will be negative 10. So if you're adding two numbers together and both their signs are the same, add them, keep the sign the same. Trickier part comes in with the second rule, when you're adding two numbers where one is positive and one is negative. What I want you to do is completely ignore the signs at first and just subtract them. Bigger number minus smaller number. And then your answer, you're going to change the sign depending on which one was larger. So if the negative was larger, then your answer will be negative. If your positive was larger, then your answer is going to be positive. If they were the same, then they would cancel each other out and it would just be 0. So example here would be negative 8. We see we're going to be putting parentheses around our negative signs. That's at first. Eventually we'll get to the point where we don't usually use parentheses for surrounding our negatives. Just kind of keep track that that's a negative number. So negative 8 plus 6, I would do this as, since they're different signs, I would think of this as a subtraction, bigger minus smaller. So I would do 8 minus 6 equals 2. And then I should decide, is it positive 2 or negative 2? Was the positive larger or was the negative larger? In this case, negative 8 was larger than 6, so it will be a negative 2. For example 2, negative 3 plus 7. Again, they're opposite signs, so you subtract them. I always think of it as bigger minus smaller, so I would do 7 minus 3 is 4. And then I decide, should it be a positive 4 or a negative 4? Which one was larger? The 7 was larger, so it would be a positive 4 because 7 is positive. So let's go ahead and try some of these out. So I have example 1 is negative 9 plus negative 2. And if you need to, you can kind of sketch some of these out. For negative 9, I could put down 9 sort of negative signs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm adding that to two negatives. I see that they're all negatives, so I can just count up how many I have in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So my answer is going to be negative 11. Sorry, I did something weird there. So my answer will be negative 11. Again, but these are just, if they're all the same sign, I wouldn't even really bother with doing that because it's pretty simple to see. Negative 3 plus negative 2, same signs, we add them. 3 plus 2 is 5. And since they were both negatives, we make it negative 5. Example 3, 4 plus 10, they're both positive. We add them. 4 plus 10 is 14. It'll be positive because they were positive numbers. Here's where we're going to get a little bit trickier. I have -7 plus a +2. So I'm actually going to sketch out 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to have 2 positives. 1 positive will cancel out with 1 negative. So this positive will cancel out that negative. This negative will cancel with that positive. And then I should have my remaining answer. I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's negatives, so that will be -5. Again, another way to think of it is, sorry, I keep hitting my camera. That's weird. Another way to think of it is to subtract them because they're opposite signs. So again, I would just think of it as the bigger number minus the smaller number. So I would do 7 minus 2 equals 5. And I'd be like, all right, should it be a +5 or a -5? Which one was larger? The negative was larger, so it should be a -5. Example 4. Again, if I want to use my positive little negative signs, I have 5 positive, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have 9 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I can cancel out 1 positive and 1 negative. So I'm going to cancel there, 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 and those 2. Now I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So my answer should be -4. Or if you don't want to draw it out, again, if they're opposite signs, we just subtract. So that's going to be 9 minus 5. I always do the bigger number on top minus the smaller number. Is 4. And then you determine the sign. It should be +4 or -4. The negative was larger, so it should be -4. Example 5. I'm just going to go ahead and treat it as a subtraction. 12 minus 3 is 9, and I determine it should be +9 or -9. The 12 is larger, which is positive, so your answer should be +9. All right, example 6. Again, I have opposite signs, 1 positive, 1 negative, so I'm going to subtract them. I always put my larger number on top. 9 minus 8 is 1. My 9 is positive, which is larger, so my answer is going to be a +1. Example 7, the two numbers, one is positive, one is negative, so I'm going to subtract them. Usually we put the bigger number on top, but they're both the same. 8 minus 8 is 0. So determining if it's positive or negative, well, neither of them are really one is greater than the other because they're the exact same. 0 is not considered positive or negative, so you just write 0. Most people kind of think of it as a positive number because they don't see a negative sign, but technically it has no sign. It's not positive or negative. Example 8, I have -2 plus 3, so again, different signs. I subtract them. 3 minus 2 is 1. I have to determine should be a +1 or a -1. My +3 was larger, so it's going to say a +1. All right, I hope everyone got their notes down. You're going to have a couple of assignments to work on for the remaining of class. And if you finish those both early, you're going to play the adding integers game. It's called like orbiting integers. This is again to get you used to practicing adding these integers together because it's pretty important. I hope you guys have a good day.